Welcome to Capitol Preview, a weekly bipartisan discussion with Iowa legislators about the key issues facing our state. Brought to you by Mediacom.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Capitol Preview, a show brought to you by Mediacom where we discuss state issues important to our representatives and state senators. Our guest today is Speaker of the House, Linda Upmeyer, Republican from Clear Lake. Madam Speaker, thank you for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. Obviously, this is your first session as the new Speaker of the House of Representatives for Iowa. So can you kind of give us a little bit of preview, or not preview, but overview of what your session's been like so far as Speaker?
Well, it's been even busier perhaps than I had predicted. As Majority Leader, I know how busy a legislative session can be, but this is even busier. There are administrative things that I had perhaps not paid attention to prior to this year.
Sure.
But busy, it's going very fast.
Yeah.
Flipping right along.
Madam Speaker, you know, you're historical for Iowa because we have never had a woman Speaker of the House of Representatives, and then you have a tie-in, a connection going back with the Speaker of the House as well. So can you kind of let our folks know a little bit about that?
Well, it's certainly an honor and a privilege to be the first woman to hold this position. It's very special for me in a unique way since my father was Speaker.
Yeah.
And in fact, the gavel pin that I have is one that my mother gave me. She originally gave it to my father when he was Speaker. So it's very special for me and for our whole family.
What's it been like? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have come up to you and asked you that. I mean, what it's been like being a woman Speaker of the House of Representatives. I'm sure you've had a lot of requests to address different organizations and groups. So can you kind of share some of those experiences with us?
You know, we always feel like we're electing the best people for a job, so I really didn't think about how historical this really was to have a woman holding this position. But I got a letter from a woman one day, and at the bottom she made a note that her 10-year-old daughter had commented after the election when it was on the news that it was so cool to have a woman in that position. So I kind of recognized that you have to be able to see someone in a position as you're perhaps to be able to see yourself doing that someday.
Absolutely.
So having a woman do this is important for young girls, I hope.
It's very cool. It's very cool. And I'm glad that Iowa finally saw the common sense of having a woman as the Speaker of our House. So tell me about the tax policy compromise that was reached recently.
Well, this year, this year when we came into session, it hadn't been very long since the federal government had decided what the tax policy would be this year, particularly pertaining to Chapter 179. And they always did it a little late, and we had to react. This year, they made it permanent. Well, as we looked at that, there probably wasn't a way we could do that permanently without some planning because we don't print money in the state of Iowa.
Right.
So we have to fit it into our balanced budget. But we did know that it was very important that people had predicted they would be able to use this tool. So it's important for small businesses, farmers, teachers, families with kids in college. We wanted to live up to that, and had we not, it would have been a $95 million unexpected tax increase for Iowans. We were able to get that done, and at the same time, we were able to codify the consumables portion. So those inputs into manufacturing to prevent a double taxation, we fixed that. The governor had fixed it by rule. We fixed it permanently in code. So I think it was a really important thing for us to do, and I think it'll have long-term benefits for Iowans.
Madam Speaker, when you say you fixed it in code, what does that mean? That means did you pass the legislation to
that
make
is
it
correct.
permanent?
We fixed it in legislation.
Okay.
Rules promulgated by governors or departments can change whenever there's new administration. Laws are a little tougher to change, so when you can put it right into the code books, make it law, it makes it a little more reliable and stable.
Do those very seldom get challenged once they're made into law or made into code?
Oh, certainly any legislature can come along and change things, and that's the way our system works.
Right.
But it works best, I think, when you have the legislature speak on some of these issues.
Absolutely. Tell me about the education funding compromise, because I know that's been on a lot of people's mind, and it's been kind of at the top of things that you guys have taken on down there. So,
well, you're exactly right. Education is a top priority for all of us, and we look for opportunities to make sure that we can solve that problem early, so schools have it for their budget when they have to file their final budgets, and also at a sustainable and responsible level. We want to make sure that it's always funded. We can land on any number if we don't intend to fund it.
Right.
The good thing about what we've been doing since we have taken over the majority in 2011 is made sure that when we land on a number, we fund it. This year, we're investing $153 million, new dollars, into K-12 education. That's 87% of the ongoing new money. It over the last several years, since 2011, that totals $660 million and has led to 809 new teachers in the state. Now, I know that's a lot of numbers, but the bottom line is we're making sure that we get a very responsible number. We came together, and I wish it had been a little earlier, but we got it done in time for schools to set their budgets. So it's a top priority, and we funded that commitment.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, it shows Iowa's commitment to education.
Absolutely.
So. What sort of benefits are we going to see with that change to managed care, which was effective last Friday, April 1?
I think there's a real opportunity here to focus on wellness and prevention and actually help people be healthier and manage chronic diseases more effectively. The old Medicaid system was really a series of episodic care. Somebody got sick, we paid for them to treat that illness. Now we have a system that is going to focus more holistically on outcomes and helping people have access to all the things they need that contribute to that wellness. So I think that's an important thing. The other thing is the Medicaid system, as we had it before, was getting very bureaucratic and very sort of heavy, not very responsive. This is an opportunity. It was also, by the way, a growing part of the budget, crowding out things like schools. So it was competing directly with those new dollars for schools. This is an opportunity to make it more predictable, more stable funding stream, and I really think we have an opportunity to have good outcomes. There will be bumps, and we'll work hard to make sure that those get resolved quickly. But there were bumps in the old system as well,
Absolutely.
and we worked hard to make sure people got what they needed.
Now, Madam Speaker, for our guests at home, when you talk about a holistic approach, you're talking about a comprehensive approach to
Absolutely,
healthcare.
a comprehensive approach where perhaps, it's not an episode of illness. It's something prevention, physical therapy combined with some case management, medication adjustments. But instead of having different silos providing that care, there's an opportunity for it to be more integrated, people working together for better outcomes. That's the goal.
I think it's important that our people watching understand that you're a nurse practitioner. So you bring a little bit of credibility into this because you understand healthcare very well. And so good luck to the healthcare management system. I think it's going to be great for our state. How's the state budget shaping up? We getting...
Well, early on we were waiting for the March revenue estimate just a little bit to see what that was going to be. Once that revenue estimate was done, school funding was decided, what we know is there's $7.351 billion. That's 176 million new dollars to be spent on this year's budget. Okay. We believe we can get our jobs done within that number, despite the fact that we have spent a fair amount of it on education as a priority. But I think we all know the number. It's a spending limitation, so we just need to get to work. We had preliminary budgets where Democrats, obviously in the Senate, had a higher number. We were at a lower number. We move things around. It's pretty easy for us to add a few things in, and we're set. I understand that it's a little tougher to cut things from a budget. I acknowledge that.
Are you seeing some of the kind of effect of the ag market or the ag industry having an effect on dollars that you guys deal with in your budget?
Absolutely, and I think that's important for us all to understand that agriculture and all the surrounding supporting businesses that go with that are very key in this state. You look at John Deere, you look at Pioneer DuPont, all the other companies in the state. When ag commodities lag, it affects the entire state. So it does have an effect.
And that's a big part of our revenue, right?
Absolutely, a huge part of our revenue.
What do you expect with the budget targets, and kind of explain to our folks at home what the budget targets are all about?
Well, we have different divisions in the state government that need to be funded, and we have to decide how much of the state budget we're going to put into each of those. So, for example, the justice system, health and human services, education, and then to a smaller extent, transportation, but they mostly rely on the road use tax fund. But those are the different divisions. We need to agree how much money we're going to put into each of them. We're getting very close to that. You know, Republicans have had a set of principles that have held us pretty well in the last few years, and those are that we're not going to spend more than we take in. We're not going to use one-time money for ongoing expenses. We're not going to underfund things intentionally just to kick the can down the road and have to come back and fix it. And any chance we get, we'll put money back in the taxpayer's pocket. But based on those principles, then inside the number with the principles, we can go. We're pretty flexible. So I think we're getting close.
The federal government can learn from Iowa state government.
I think that's exactly right.
Because we do it right, and you take
right.
great pains in making it right.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. But I think the thing to remember is there's no reason we shouldn't get to these numbers pretty quickly. There's not going to be more money next week or the following week.
Right.
So we need to just look at the resources we have available to us and then decide where we want to expend those resources this year.
Very good. Now, speaking of that, we've talked about the great work that has been done up there, the hard work that's been done. So this session is supposed to end, 100-day session on April 19th. Are we going to make that or not?
You know, I sure hope so. I think there's an opportunity to do that. But I have to say, if we don't reach targets and start moving forward pretty quickly here in the next few days, then I think it gets tougher and tougher. But I really believe that Iowans expect us to get our work done and get it done in a timely fashion. So there's no reason to linger. We know what we need to do. We simply need to get the job done.
That's excellent. Okay, I have just about a 20-second quick question.
Sure.
I'd be remiss if I didn't do it. Give me a 10-second or 20-second view on the presidential race, because everybody's talking about it.
Well, this is a super exciting year, and I think entirely unpredictable. I think we just need to continue the process and see what the results are. But I'm looking forward to the convention and everything that plays out.
Yeah, very good. Madam Speaker, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate talking to you this
It's
morning.
my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, and join us for another episode of Capitol Preview.